Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So I was driving around the mall parking lot looking for a spot. You know how it is, circling around like a hawk waiting for a spot to open up. Finally, I saw someone pulling out, so I quickly snagged the spot. I didn't think much of it at the time, it was just a regular parking spot, right? Well, not exactly. Just as I was getting out of my car, I heard this loud screeching voice. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" I turned around and saw this woman storming towards me. She looked like she was about to explode. Her face was bright red, and she was waving her arms around like a windmill. She had that classic "can I speak to your manager" haircut and wore a leopard print coat that was a little too tight. Let's call her Karen for the sake of the story. "I am parking my car, what does it look like?" I replied, a bit confused. I really didn't see what the big deal was. "That's my spot. I always park there," Karen shrieked, pointing her finger at me as if I had committed a major crime. "Sorry, I didn't realize parking spots could be reserved," I said, trying to keep my cool. "There is no name on it and it's a public parking lot." But Karen wasn't having any of it. "I don't care, you need to move your car now." She was so loud that people started to gather around, watching the spectacle. "Look, I am sorry, but I am not moving. I found the spot first," I said firmly. I started to walk away, hoping that would be the end of it, but boy, was I wrong. I went about my shopping thinking the whole thing was over, but when I came back to my car, my heart dropped. All the windows were smashed. Glass was everywhere, and it was a disaster. I couldn't believe it. That's when I saw a note stuck to the windshield. It was from Karen, admitting she broke my windows because I took her spot. She was so entitled that she thought this was justified. I immediately called the cops. When they arrived, I showed them the note. Thankfully, there were security cameras in the parking lot. The footage showed Karen in all her glory taking a baseball bat to my car. The cops were stunned, and they found her in the mall and arrested her on the spot. Karen tried to play the victim, of course. "It's just a parking spot. He didn't have to take it," she wailed as they handcuffed her. It was almost comical watching her trying to justify her crazy behavior. Karen had to pay for all the damages to my car, which wasn't cheap. She also had to do community service and attend anger management classes. The judge wasn't lenient with her at all. I guess she finally learned that you can't just go around smashing people's property because you didn't get your way. So this past Christmas, my missus and I purchased one of our 9-year-old son's Santa gifts from a certain UK sports retail company that also has many stores here in Ireland as well. It was a football rebounder, kinda like a trampoline that you kick the ball at and it bounces back to you. Anyway, we purchased it from their Irish website and thought nothing more of it. A few days go by and we get a notification from a certain brown uniformed courier company that there are customers' charges due on something. As you can imagine, we've bought many things for the kids, so we had to double check what we've ordered, and we didn't have anything left that was being imported, so we naturally assumed it was a scam. So I told the wife to call the company and find out who shipped it, and it was a different courier company based in the UK. After a bit of digging and investigating, it turns out that it's our rebounder. They had shipped it from the UK via a local carrier to the brown uniformed guys to deliver to us. Now, my wife and I are both on disability, so an additional charge of almost 50 euros when you're both already on a fixed income is harsh, especially at Christmas. So I told her to pay it and not deal with a retailer. The first day I called, I had to call 3 times, being stuck on hold for at least 20 minutes each time, but I was patient and polite because I've worked in a call center before, so I knew those people are only doing their job. But I asked to speak to a manager. I was promised a call back each time. That never happened. The second day was quite similar. The third day I was starting to get annoyed, so called back, waiting even longer on hold, and finally wasn't taking this nonsense any longer. I told the rep that all I wanted was a 50 euros back because our consumer rights in Ireland dictate that a person must be informed of any additional charges on a purchase, at the very latest by the final checkout screen, and in this case, there was nothing to show that. And I could easily replicate that issue by putting the same item in my basket and going all the way to the checkout screen again and there was nothing saying we'd have to pay import charges. The rep was indifferent to the situation but tried to help, and what he said sent me over the edge. He offered me a measly €20 gift voucher to use on their website, but more importantly, he read a statement to me. He said, "We advise our customer that there may be DDU charges, delivery duty unpaid, i.e. custom charges, on any item that gets shipped outside of the UK. Then I asked him where it stated this information and he paused, then said he didn't actually know. I said, "Well, I know one thing. It doesn't say it anywhere on this transaction because I've checked, and because this is a violation of my consumer rights, I'm going to give your company one last chance to make this right. Have your manager call me within the next 60 minutes, or I'm going to post this entire debacle on LinkedIn and link every senior officer in your company." Then I hung up the phone and waited. Yet again, no call. The next day I went on LinkedIn and followed through on my promise. I created a post detailing what they had done by sticking us with hidden charges and that they were ignoring our requests for a manager, and everything they said and did. Then I tagged every senior officer at that company from the regional managers through the European directors all the way to the CEO, and I shamed them for how they operate their company. This, ladies and gentlemen, was now an act of war. Shortly after I posted that, I noticed that they took down the item from their website in an attempt to hide this, but they must have thought I'm a simpleton that doesn't understand how the internet works. They didn't realize that when you searched for rebounder on their website, that it shows the item in question, so I took a screenshot of that, then another of the item page that was now missing. But then I did a Google cached search for the same page and found a version from 2 days prior happily showing the item. Then I added a comment to my original post highlighting how they were trying to hide it with the evidence and trolling them for their heinous behavior, especially at Christmas. Then I tagged and shamed all senior officers again, and at this point it was really starting to get some attention. Not only publicly, but 3 people incognito mode viewed my profile. I wonder who they could have been. So naturally I took a screenshot of the 3 mysterious visitors listed on my profile and did the same thing. Commented on my own post highlighting it and trolling them for their incompetence. The next morning I got a call from a senior executive at their head office in the UK, practically licking my boots with apologies, asking what she can do to make this right. I told her I originally only wanted my €50 back as it wasn't fair, nor even legal, that I had to pay it. But since I had to go to such lengths to get their attention, now I wanted my €50 back, a full refund on my entire purchase, and I wanted to keep the product. That was the only thing that would make this go away. She asked for a couple of hours to fix it, and I said okay. About an hour later I got another call from her, again apologizing. She asked for my PayPal address where she sent the €50, then she refunded the whole purchase and she let us keep the product. Obviously I thanked her for her help because at that stage I was just happy it was over. But I'll be screwed if I'll let anyone walk all over my family, even if they are a £58 million annual company. The most of the story here is don't take nonsense from anyone. I may be just one man, but my son's view of Santa is far more valuable to me than the opinion of some retail chain that doesn't care about its customers nor how it operates ethically. So my friend over in Korea studies fashion design. She sometimes sends me over the sketches of the designs, and they all look amazing. Then again, I'm not into fashion. She's particularly interested in designing handbags and purses. She told me a story about how she shut down one of the most entitled, self-centered, lazy students on campus. The cast of this story includes Grace, our main character girl, Jane, the evil one, and the professor, the instructor of the course. The story. At first, Grace and Jane got along just fine. They were both interested in similar stuff and quickly became BFFs. Grace decided to show Jane her sketches and designs for handbags and purses, and Jane was so impressed by it, because the sketches were in incredible detail, including all the patterns and sew lines, coupled with figurative measurements. Even the professor was impressed by it, and it was no surprise that Grace got a high mark on their first major exam. Jane didn't do so well and practically followed Grace everywhere to get pointers on how to do better, so Grace decided to help her out. Unfortunately, Jane turned out to be one of the most entitled, lazy, and selfish people that Grace has ever met. Things that Jane did to piss Grace off included, but not limited to, not paying attention, being late on their study session, never showed appreciation, didn't pay for coffee or snack, complaining annoyingly about how hard it was to draw something. Grace pretty much gave up on her after a week, refusing to meet Jane outside of her class. Time went by, and for their midterm, everyone in the class had to do a presentation on the stuff they had designed. When it was Jane's turn, Grace was shocked to see Jane had stolen one of her designs. Thankfully, Grace had multiple designs going on, so there were no conflicts when it was her turn to present, but she was seething with rage. Grace had a meeting with a professor afterwards, and the professor knew what was going on, but couldn't really do anything with Jane because it turns out she was the daughter of the chairman, or one of the major investors. Grace said she can't recall. The chairman apparently blackmailed the professor into giving Jane the best grades. The revenge. Professor did, however, help Grace devise a plan to humiliate and expose Jane. For the finals, the professor announced to the class they would do another presentation, but it would be 3 designs, and advised they had to bring their A games because professionals from industries would be grading their work. And the head of the department and the chairman would be there as well. So you know how Grace had a bunch of sketches for the class? Well, Grace also had a spare sketchbook that had designs from major brands. MK, Coach, you name it. She never used these directly for class assignments, but rather as inspiration for her designs. Grace pretended to be all friendly with Jane again, and brought the other sketchbook on their meetings, still putting up with all the problems mentioned above. Grace secretly worked tirelessly on her new design, and did her best to keep it a secret from Jane. So the day of the final presentation arrives, and Grace and Professor are grinning because they know what's about to happen. Grace went first, and she got a lot of praise from the judges. After a few more presentations, the last one to go was Jane. Jane's presentation turned out to be another copycat, copying designs of not 1, not 2, but 3 different companies. After the presentation, this was how it all went down, at least according to Grace. Judge 1: So you're saying you designed all these by yourself, right? That's right, Jane says. And you swear that it was really your design, and didn't copy off from anything else, right? I swear. You're aware your designs are from these 3 brands. Huh? Are you aware that these are on market right now, and some of the most popular designs? Wait, hold on. Yeah, I was going to bring this up. Another judge adds, if you had worked for any brands, you would have probably been fired, or worst case, sued. But, please, I am not done yet. Did you honestly think this would work? We, the judges, have been in this industry for over 10 years. We know a copycat when we see it. But these aren't even my designs. They are from Grace. Judge number 3 asks Grace, is this true? Yes, but I'd never use them for major projects, nor call them my work. I just use sketches of them as inspirations for my own designs. Well, that was clear from your presentation. Turning back to Jane now. Now, Miss Jane, this is a clear case of plagiarism, and I do hope your school is merciful on this matter. After the presentation was over, the chairman screamed at the professor in front of everyone, not realizing he just revealed all the blackmailing and a secret grade deal. Jane tried to call out Grace on how you screwed me over, but it really didn't matter. No one listened to Jane's attempt and slander. I was kicked out of the school. The chairman pretty much lost all support and had to resign. I was replaced by a far more honorable and competent one. I, 36 female, I'm married to Dan, 34 male, and we have discussed having kids in the future. I found out last year, though, that I have a low chance of naturally having a kid. Fertility treatments in my area are very pricey, and my insurance only covers it after a certain time of trying naturally. I'm pretty old, so my chance of naturally conceiving is low anyway, but I initially didn't want kids. It's only changed since meeting Dan. We saved up for a round of IVF, but it was unsuccessful and a sore topic for the both of us. Dan wants to discuss it, but it's something I struggle with. My mother-in-law is a lovely woman, but she can be invasive. My sister-in-law had a miscarriage, and my mother-in-law was very helpful, staying with my sister-in-law and helping out around the house, but she has a fix-it mentality and asked my sister-in-law about trying again. Adoption, fertility treatments pretty soon after. She didn't mean it in a malicious way, but I know if I told her, she would have the same questions for me that I'm not prepared to answer. I initially told my mother-in-law we both didn't want kids, but she kept asking me why. I told her Dan didn't want kids actually to get her to stop. She started asking Dan why, and he's upset at me now because I lied to his mom. And now with some comments on a post. Someone saying, "Yeah, you're the jerk. You didn't owe your mother-in-law any sort of explanation or justification, but it was a bit slimy to throw your husband to the wolf to escape yourself, especially by giving a false reason without his prior agreement. He's justifiably annoyed at you. Either straightforwardly handing the issue over to your husband to handle, or drawing a line in the sand yourself and telling her that topic wasn't up for discussion would have been honorable, but you took the coward's way out." Another commenter adds, "You're the jerk. Claiming your husband was horrible, and he's right to be upset. Your mother-in-law sounds like a lot, but lying to her is silly. I'm the same age as you, we're all grown-ups now. If you don't want to discuss your fertility or desire to have children with her, be firm and refuse to do so. I prefer not to discuss that, on repeat. If that upsets her, then too bad. Better than men tying yourself up in knots with lies and upsetting your husband." Edit to add, "I speak from experience of nosy, intrusive relatives. What you're going through is really tough, and your mother-in-law isn't entitled to any discussion about it." A third commenter goes with, "You're the jerk. Honestly, the problem isn't with your mother-in-law. The problem is within you and your issues or perceived issues with infertility. Add to that you lied to your mother, not knowing what her reaction will be, and put your husband in the middle of this lie. How she dealt with your sister-in-law isn't necessarily how she would handle it with you, and you never once drew your boundaries on a discussion of your infertility. In other words, you didn't give her a chance before you vilified her." A while back, I posted an out of work here lady story in which I was at a local Walmart and ended up having a manager screaming and hollering at me from behind, which I don't hear due to a severe hearing loss, and didn't even notice until my roommate finds me in the aisle being yelled at and explained to the manager he's deaf and doesn't work here, resulting in an apology and a gift card. Well, this is an extension of that previous story, but it's short and sweet. My happy stimulus check didn't hit his Walmart debit card like it was supposed to, so it got sent back to the IRS, resulting in him having to have a check sent to him. He gets that check in the mail and we want to go cash it. So our hippie neighbors agreed to drive us there and wait. Knowing we're going to get a little shopping too. This was already told to them prior that we will get a few things. So while my hubby is waiting in line at the service desk and subsequently having the employees screw things up and screw him out of some money, deposit this to my card and she makes it out of cash and charges him for it. "Oh, I can't put it on the card for you," charges him more to put it on the card. So while he's doing that, I have a buggy and I'm zooming around the store, just grabbing all the items requested of me, and that singular manager that had previously chewed me out was waving to get my attention instead of tapping me on the shoulder. I get more waves now than shoulders tap, which I'm fine with if you're patient for me to see and notice you. The manager signs to me. Me learning signing. "You deaf, no here. Me here. You understand me?" Of course I said, "Yes, I understand you," verbally. The manager smiles and signs, "Help you?" To which I said, "No thanks, I'm fine. I'm rather used to locating things on my own." Then she signs, "Nice day," and leaves with a smile. So she went from raging at me, mistaking me for an employee and giving me a discount for her mistake, to learning to sign and apparently eager to show what she's learned. I'm not even mad. I think more people should learn how to sign. I mean, you could learn any language for a second language, but you're less likely to actually go to France or Japan than you are to literally lose your hearing. So learning to sign is a great option and does count as a second language on your resume. Overall, I just find it neat how a previous out-of-work here lady situation evolved into someone being inspired and motivated to learn a whole new language.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.